Okay. Hi, guys. Jonathan and I are here with you. How are you all doing? Oh, okay. I'm just getting a message here saying it doesn't want to stream to Facebook right now. So, um, yeah, bye. Okay.
There we go.
So how are you, Jonathan?
Yeah, not bad, thanks. Just came back from the gym, so apologies to people looking at me thinking, why do you look like a 40-plus-year-old man? It's because I sweated my backside off in the gym and I worked really hard and I just cycled all the way back and haven't changed my clothes yet. So that's why I look like a sack of crap. So, also had some technical issues with the lighting, as some of you guys have worked out probably by now. So my camera is pumping out high quality, but it's high quality in a very weird setting just to get me on the screen, basically. So there we go.
Nice. So, well, guys, it's good to see you all. Thank you for joining us. We've got Paul coming in. Hello. We've got Ben here. Hi, Dave and Jonathan. We've got another Ben here.
Hey
Okay.
Ben, what's up?
Yeah. So, however you're watching us, whether you're on Jonathan's channel or mine, could you do us a massive favor and smash like as you come in? And that'll help bring more people in. We've got 28 people watching already, which is great. Here's Finbear. How you doing? Butcher's buddy. How are you? And we've got unretired carnivore. How you doing? Okay, very nice. So yeah, give us a shout. Let us know where you're coming in from. We're going to talk about some carnivore things and body composition. So, what were you doing in the gym today, Jonathan? Were you doing your back, arms, something like that?
Funny enough, yeah. So I did a back
Oh,
workout today. It's not the most pleasant of workouts, guys. So anyone that does train back or legs, for example, they know it's intensive in your whole body because your back takes up, from the top of your neck down to the bottom of your spine. Whereas if it's like a chest workout, it's just this portion of your body. So for me, it's quite intensive with my spine injury, spine disease. So it requires a lot of focus and also applied intensity in the right kind of circumstance. So yeah, did a nice back workout. 2 sets of pull downs, 2 sets of rows, 2 sets of reverse flies, and 1 set of lower back extensions.
hmm. And is that a once a week thing, or is that once every few days? Or
Every few days, so at the moment doing a bit of a mixed sort of split. So it's a 4-way split. So I'm doing a push workout, a pull workout, a leg workout, then a shoulders, arms, and calves workout. But that changes quite frequently based on my recovery. I'm currently preparing for a bodybuilding competition in 10 weeks' time. So things will move around a bit. I might increase my training frequency a little bit, but decrease my volume in each session. But it's all about just, creating a bigger energy burn effectively and decreasing food as time goes on, but also doing the least amount of work with the least amount of stress on my body to get the most results. So it'll probably change over a period of time, but I do look drained, guys. I am exhausted. My fat intake is very low. It's lower than I let any of my clients go. So I'm doing pretty similar to what you might call a protein sparing modified fast. I don't recommend the way I'm doing it to anyone because I have done it about 20 to 30 times now. I know what to expect. I know what to do. I know how to troubleshoot if I encounter any problems. But that's why I'm looking like I'm dead right now because I'm pretty close. This is my lowest food intake day of the week. So I do what you might call like a fat cycling approach. So I have a 5-day high protein, low fat, low carb days. Then on the weekend, so Saturday and Sunday, it'll be effectively a bit more fat. But my higher days aren't high days by anyone's standards at all. They're probably less than what most people watching this right now are eating anyway. But it's all a means to an end, a means to get ripped. It is tricky, it is hard work, but it's a requirement to get into bodybuilding shape. I do get a lot of questions about my stuff. Like I post like a picture every week or roughly on a Friday, Saturday. I say, this is what I look like right now. This is what I've done to achieve that. This is my daily macronutrient intake average of the last 7 days. And people are like, oh, this is very low. Why do you do this? I'm like, this is me. You don't do what I do. You can see my face. I'm drained. I'm exhausted. This is tough on the body. But it's all a means to an end. So it's a specific approach for a bodybuilding competition. Most people don't need to try this hard or be this abrasive, but the standard here in bodybuilding is extremely high. I'd say it's probably the highest in the world. there's very few opportunities to become a professional in the UK. I'm sure it's the same in perhaps Australia or Japan. But the requirement for being ripped, or what we call in bodybuilding condition, is absolute. If you don't have lines through your glutes and through the upper and lower glutes, for example, you won't win a competition effectively. You just don't compete. So the standard is very high, so you have to do more intensive things to get to that standard effectively. Someone's asked a question about my division, which is from Paul Hill.
Who was that? Yeah,
yeah, so
what division do you compete in?
So I compete in classic physique. I just about make the weight limit this year. So I'll compete at about 98 kilograms. I believe the weight cap is about 100 kilograms. It should be fine, but we'll see. You know, when you eat a bit more food towards the end to sort of fill out your muscles a little bit, sometimes that can throw things off. I have competed in open classes and junior classes before. I smashed the junior classes. I've won Mr. Wales. I've been to the nationals in the UK, things like that. The problem is when you go up to the open classes, it's a lot more competitive. And I'm 28 years old with a disabling spine disease. So taking the drugs necessary to compete at that level, the extra food, the stress in the body isn't worth it for me. I made that measured decision myself. So for me, classic physique is the step down, which is more appropriate for my goals and what I can achieve right now.
I'm just giggling to myself there when you said you've competed in Mr. Wales. So it could be like, a competition that's held in Wales, or an obesity competition or something like that.
Oh, there's no whales there, no swimming mammals. No.
So, Jonathan, I'm pretty lazy. I'm very, very lazy. What is, like, how do I kind of get into any kind of bodybuilding as a lazy person?
I'd say don't, as odd as that sounds. I mean, if you're going to go about doing it, I mean, you effectively train maybe 2 to 4 times per week. You build a bit of muscle. You find your baseline food intake, then you work out, okay, well, this maintains my body as Dave Mack at, 12% body fat, what have you. You say, okay, well, I need to get to 4 or 5% body fat. So you try to keep your protein at a steady amount. Then effectively you just decrease the fat, and that's the way bodybuilders have been doing it. Or if they eat carbohydrates, obviously they reduce the carbohydrates. And they've been doing that for about 100 years, and it's worked so far. So generally the gist of it is to have your protein intake set. And some people actually increase protein a little bit, in that it's hard to get fat from eating more protein, but it provides more satiety. So there's that side of it as well. And effectively your protein might start, say, 150. Your fat might start at 150, say. You might end up at 180 protein. Your fat might end up as low as maybe 100 grams or even less. Some people add in, cardiovascular activity. I'm not the biggest fan of that. If someone is going to do that, I'd suggest doing outside. Going for a walk with the dogs, going swimming. Something which is outside rather than a strong blue lit gym. That's not the best thing for long-term health outcomes. Now, with that being said, I'd also look at perhaps making sure you're not taking any medication. In that, what you'll find is as you get very lean, you start to get symptoms of acid reflux because your body's got nothing to pump through. So you're feeling dry, you're feeling weak, like I feel right now. I'll probably swig like some water in a minute. But that's effectively what happens. So your body does start to break down. So having a good coach is important, so you work out how to troubleshoot from that. A lot of people add in supplements here and there down the line to aid their performance and keep them somewhat healthy, and they do work to some extent. There's some that are more effective than others, but ultimately you don't go about it if you're a lazy person. It's something you have to force. You don't happen to get in contest shape. So getting in contest shape does take a serious amount of time and dedication. I'd say for most people, if you say walk around, you have faint ab line, for example, maybe give yourself 12 to 16 weeks to prepare for it. Give yourself longer rather than less periods of time. And when it comes to like the carnivore diet, I think a lot of people pull the wrong lever. They'll say, okay, I need to get lean, so I'm going to do the lion diet. So I'm going to go from 5-6 animal foods in one day down to 1. I think that's the biggest mistake most people can make because it will affect your gut microbiome. Now, yes, it will work, but you've effectively reduced the mass of food that you take in dramatically because you're only eating one food. So then you've got less things to pull from because you're making such a massive change at once. So it might be, say, for example, you eat, ribeye steaks, eggs, bit of cheese, cream, milk, give a day, fish maybe. You might say, okay, well, I'm going to reduce the milk down from 400 milliliters, so about 2 cups, down to 1 cup a day. Then from there, you might say, well, I'm eating a lot of butter, I'm eating very fatty meats. You might say, well, okay, I'm not going to have 80% lean ground beef or minced beef now. I'm going to have, 85, 90%, something like that, a bit leaner. Just go about it that way. I think a lot of people try to force it too much. And there's also I understand where it comes from because it's an easy thing to change, but a lot of people think that dairy is going to make them fat. And working with over 400 clients, I've not seen that at all. It's not that dairy has this magical thing that makes you fat. I've not noticed that at all. In that I've actually got rid of all the cheese that I'm eating for the last month or so. And it's not made any substantial difference towards my fat loss efforts in terms of what I've done before, what I've recognized with different people over time. Now, obviously, dairy does have an amount of lactose in it, which can impact the carbohydrate insulin model. But that isn't the determinant of how lean you can get. Reason being is that we can see, for example, vegans that are out there right now just eating a high carb, low fat, relatively low protein diet, and they get shredded out of their mind. Now, granted, they don't have much muscle on their body because they're not eating much protein, especially quality protein, but their insulin levels would be crazy high. So that tells me, okay, it's not that much of a problem. Now, my experience working with lots of people, I'm going to keep saying my experience because that is what I have, in that we don't have a controlled study. So my experience is probably the best example I can possibly give. I'd say it impacts the amount of food that you can eat by about 20% at most. So that means, for example, if I was having, say, 100 grams of carbs per day from yogurt and milk and stuff like that, I'd say that reduce the amount of food labeled food calories I could eat by about 20%. So it's not actually that big of a deal. Now, people are going to get rid of that and think, okay, it's great. But then what do? You have to affect the mass of food that you take in. So for most people on a carnivore diet, it's going to be the fat. So one problem I see with a lot of people is they don't track their food intake, and that's where they get all these problems. So, I've cut out dairy. Okay, but you've also increased your, the fat content of your beef. You've not noticed it. Now without realizing you're eating more fat that's rendered out of the pan. So you've not affected the mass of food that's going into your body. You've just took out one thing and replaced it with another. So I think people that have extreme body composition goals, especially, so getting below 10% body fat for men, you do have to track what you're taking in because that's going to be the best way to do it because you're measuring it, therefore you're managing it. So for me, dairy is a small pebble in the grand scheme of things. It's something to leverage now and then, but it's not the biggest impactor of body composition outcomes. Now, on the flip side, obviously we talk about fat loss here, but if we're trying to gain weight, we can use that to our advantage. Now, obviously dairy is hyperpalatable, so that's why a lot of people can gain weight with it. So if you're not tracking it, it's easy to overeat. A block of cheese, it has nutrition in it. It has a bit of calcium, a bit of potassium, stuff like that, a bit of K2. But largely speaking, it's not as nutrient dense as other animal foods, such as beef. So we have to eat more of it to get that satiety point. So that's why we could eat, say, 500 calories of cheese quite easily. But we couldn't do the same with ground beef because it's not as nutrient dense. So we obviously have the hedonic factor, the satiety factor, the fullness factor of food. So as you progress through your fat loss journey, you kind of work out, okay, what lever do I need to pull? Do I feel like I'm not eating enough food? Is it the wrong food? And people make that drastic change without realizing how much of an important thing it is to just get the main macronutrient intake right. So I advise people, generally speaking, to, eat to satiety, salt to taste, drink to thirst. That does work, broadly speaking, but when people have to get very lean, they do have to change something. And evidence support my claim comes from the fact that that's been true with every single person that I've ever worked with. So they come to me with a body composition problem, so I give them a solution. The best solution is the best practice, which is to work out what they're taking in. And if they're taking in, I get so many client intake forms, and it's like, make a diet plan for someone, say, what do you eat in a given day? I eat 1 to 2 pounds of ribeye. What is it, 1 or is it 2? That's a twofold increase. So how much food do you eat?
It's a big difference,
there's the problem.
Right?
There's the problem. So it's not that they're having dairy; it's the fact they don't have an idea of what they're eating on an average day. So that's kind of what I do now. But yeah, that's kind of the main thing I wanted to talk about specifically today, just because I think a lot of people have given these throwaway comments to people on forums and YouTube in the comment section online saying, "Oh, I got rid of dairy and I lost weight." It's like, well, yeah, well, how much dairy were you having and what were you eating outside of that? What were you doing before? People, largely speaking, that I work with, I'll put them on near enough the same macronutrient intake that they're having before, but they'll start to lose fat at quite a quick rate because they're doing the same thing every day. Because they're underestimating how much they were eating because I told them to track what they're eating over, say, a 1 week span. So largely speaking, it's not dairy that's making everyone fat. It's a contributor for sure, but it's not the main thing.
It's really interesting. But you kind of think when people are saying like, I have 1 to 2 pounds of ribeye, and then you go, well, that's what people are doing when they're filling out these food frequency questionnaires as well, that the science is based on.
Yeah, literally that 40% margin of error.
Yeah. So
it's not
I
going to
forgot
work.
to mention, if anyone has any questions, anything about carnivore body composition, please put a Q in front of your question, and that'll help me find it easier to bring it up on screen. Yeah. So I've got another question, and it's based on a conversation that I had recently. Do you actually enjoy your workouts, or do you do it like as it's kind of like, well, this is the routine that I have to do?
That's a good question. I had the same conversation with someone in the gym yesterday. I think largely speaking, when someone goes to the gym, they don't enjoy the gym. Now they'll say, I go to the gym and I feel great for it. Well, yeah, if you're over fat and you lose weight for it, you feel fit, you see your friends down the gym, of course you're going to enjoy going to the gym. It's obvious. If you don't have much of a social life, it's great. So for a lot of people, that's quite helpful. For me, when I'm training in the gym, it's quite a neutral territory. So it's more like I go there as it's part of my job, but it's a means to an end. So it means I can put the pain I experience day to day with like my spine and hip problems. It takes my mind off it. It gives me an escape, like like a way out of it in a sense. So for, like the same people kind of will say, I go for a long run and I get the runner's high. It's the same experience. It gets your mind somewhere else. So the pressure in your body, especially as an autistic individual, like myself, you experience a lot of sensory overload. Now, if I go to the gym and I've just got my mind into a set, all that sensory overload is wiped out. So for me, it's freeing. It's meditation. So it's not so much that it's fun or bad. It's quite neutral, but it puts my mind somewhere else. And the funny thing, this is quite paradoxical, me saying this perhaps, but bodybuilding or resistance training is a stress to the body. It's not natural by any means. You weren't naturally out in the wild lifting, a bench press doing 10 reps of 100 kilos on the chest. That's not natural at all. For the vast majority of our human evolution, we've been walking for long periods of time. Maybe we'd have something on our shoulders for quite a long time, a few minutes to carry something or dig something, I don't know, chop away at something. But largely speaking, we weren't doing anything else, so it's not natural at all. Now, one of the reasons why people go to the gym and they feel good for it and say, life's better for it is because their body has a reward system that tells them to stop doing it. So when you stop going to stop training, you have that relief, like that calm feeling. That's your body thanking you for stopping it. Your body was under stress and now it's not. So people don't want to admit that, but that's the harsh truth. Come from a bodybuilder, it's hard for me to say that and sort of admit, it is a strange thing to do, but it is the hard truth, to be honest. So we can measure our hormones before, during, and after training, and after training they seem to improve. So for me, it's been it's overall just an overall benefit. And what I would say is that I do it partly as a means to promote myself and my business. So obviously I do have a financial, economic, prerogative to train. Because I am the face of my brand. I'm an online body composition coach, so I do have a standard to uphold. And if I can show people I can do it as someone with a disabling spine disease and hip problems and autism, sensory overload in a gym, that tells me there's not really an excuse why someone else can't do it outside of not having limbs. So it's quite a motivational factor for some people. So I get a lot of comments and people email me like, "Oh, you can do it, so why can't I do it?" sort of thing. So I'm most impressed by the person that sat home, 20 years old, autistic, doesn't have a job, struggles to find a place to work in the workplace. It gives them more confidence. It means they can improve their body composition, which can improve their appearance, and people are more employable if they look better. Nature does discriminate, and human nature is that the better we look, whether it be physical attraction or our bodies, for example, or even our intelligence, and people do aspire to be around more people like that. The law of attraction. So that's why I enjoy talking to people like yourself, Bart K. Intelligent, thoughtful people that apply logic and they want to improve the lives of themselves and people around them. So progressive thinkers are certainly something that I strive to be around more so than not.
Nice. So, from something you mentioned there, just before we get on to some questions that are coming through, from something you mentioned there, and then something that DC is saying here, I agree, Jonathan. It's like meditating. When I'm in the gym, I don't notice anything or anyone else there. So, you mentioned like some people enjoy it because they're going there for the social occasion, but like when you're there, you're just kind of focused, and DC is kind of saying the same thing. Do you, in your experience over the years, would you say the people that they're enjoying it because it's a bit of a social thing for them, are they less likely to get good long-term results, or their results are going to be slower?
They'll be slower. If I'm honest, the truth is that it'll be slower. Now, for some people, it can help them if they've got a big weight loss journey. It keeps them accountable. If you're a 40-year-old woman, you weigh 30 stone, go with your mate, your sister, your aunt or something. Yeah, I mean, you'll sit at the treadmill, you have a chat, you're doing something. Something is better than nothing. But I think people that get the best results are the people that go to hardcore gyms where, you're stuck there with headphones, you're wearing your baggy hoodie, you're wearing baggy clothes so people don't watch you and stare at you. You're just getting on with your own thing. They're people that get the best results. And like even in my advanced training career, so I've been training now for about 15 years or so, I'd say some of the best results I've had have been since I've been on the carnivore diet, which is bizarre. I'd say it's mostly because I'm sleeping better, my digestion's better, my body's simulating nutrition better, and I'm more instinctive. So before in the past, I'd be like, oh, I'm tired, I'm going to have a cup of coffee. I'm going to eat more carbs. I'm going to have some Skittles, some Haribo, whatever. We get in this gym bro mentality of, oh, something is low in us, we need more. Sometimes we just need to sit on our ass and do nothing. And people don't realize that you just need to rest. And like rest is the cornerstone of recovery. So if we don't recover, we don't get better. So I've been a lot more conscious and thoughtful about recovering better nowadays, especially with pain and stuff like that. So after my sessions, my hands are shaking like that. So I'll be training calves and my hands like that because I'm so into the set, like I'm gripping hard, that sort of thing. So it can be quite a big toll on the body. So the more advanced you get, the more you have to psych yourself up to train hard in the gym because you realize, okay, I've got 40 minutes to an hour here to get better. So you don't speak to people in the gym. It's not social for you. The gym I train at is a very hardcore gym. There's posters on the wall of like professional bodybuilders there. Lots of pros came out of my gym. There's trophies. There's about 50 to 100 trophies and medals covered in the walls. So it's very motivating when you go to that sort of gym. Now, when you go to a big box gym, you don't get that. They're playing like pop music, having a bit of a laugh. They got yoga balls. No one's really going for it. But this sort of gym, you're there to train sort of thing. So the people you surround yourselves with is very important as well.
Interesting. All right. So we've got quite a few questions come through. So let's go through these in order. Mark, how you doing, Mark? Aiming to go from 20 to 22% body fat to about 12 to 15. Mostly want to lose a bit of fat, get more defined, and add a bit of mass. I'm 5'11", 57 years old. Okay, nice.
Statement, Dave.
Yeah, statement. So that should be SSS. Okay. Or I should proofread them first. Okay, freedom. Why do so many carnivore coaches sound so hyper? It makes it difficult to take info in. Is hyperstate part of going carnivore? Ooh.
That's a good question. I'm not sure if I understand what they mean. If they mean hyper, they mean energetic or forthcoming charismatic. That's not me. I'm not a charismatic person, guys. But yeah, I mean, if you listen to maybe Bart K or Dr. Chafee, they're excited to talk about what they're talking about because they're passionate and they understand what they're saying. They feel good. You know, when people don't realize when Dr. Chafee's doing these lives, guys, he's there for like 3 hours plus sometimes. And it's a weird time of day for him. I know, Dave, when you do these lives, it's a funny time of day for you as well in Japan, you know, trying to accumulate the viewership from people in the States. So you kind of have to put your best foot forward. And obviously, the people we see on the screen is not an accurate interpretation or representation of the person that is in real life kind of thing. But then when you're putting out yourself out as an image, you have to act a certain way. But I don't try to do that anymore. I tried to be perfect with my videos in the past, but now I'm a bit loose on the tongue. I say things a bit haphazardly because I show people that I'm very real. When this time goes on, you're more articulate. You sort of word things a lot better because think of these Q&As, guys. When you have you answer the same question about electrolytes or fat loss 100 times over. Over that time, you refine your answer. You've worked out the best way to present that information. You get better and better at it. The people will always ask the same questions. So sometimes people can be a bit tired of answering the same questions, sometimes not. But yeah, I can see where they're coming from. Some people are a bit like that.
I'm muted there. Yeah, just I would say, I mean, I can't really add anything to what you said there, Jonathan. I think that refining of the message is something that I agree. It does make you seem more polished or hyper or whatever, but it's kind of not that. It's just you've said it that many times, as you say, you've polished off the rough edges, and you know, you just found a way of saying things that people can digest it most easily. So yeah,
yeah, for sure.
So next, we've got a question from Gazamongo. Ooh, that sounds a bit Australian.
He's one of my members.
How long can you leverage lower fat and higher protein without drifting into nutritional deficits, rabbit starvation? I'm eating low fat, EOD, then higher fat and food mass on the other day.
Okay, so he's doing, by the sounds of it, a bit like a protein sparing modified fast, but a staggered approach. So it's a bit like fat cycling, you might also call it as well. It depends how lower fat is. I'd say, broadly speaking, for my clients, I don't take them below 100 grams of fat per day. We're talking about macronutrients. So for someone listening to this, what does that look like? That looks like about 120 grams of butter per day in total. And that's assuming you didn't eat fatty ribeyes, for example. What I'd say is rabbit starvation occurs when you're shredded out of your mind. You will not experience rabbit starvation if you're 15% body fat. It won't happen. I think there's a misinterpretation that people have had. Maybe a bit of a misnomer in some senses. Now, obviously, if you eat lean protein, so you just eat chicken breast for, say, you're 10% body fat and you eat just chicken breast for, say, 4, 5, 6 months, you'll feel like death and you will experience rabbit starvation at some point. When that is, I could not say it without seeing a visual of someone. I could give some estimate. But yeah, I mean, the approach that he's got is quite sensible. I mean, staggering the fat loss days and the more maintenance style days works really well. Also like that he's used the right terminology here, which is food mass, not calories sort of thing. We've talked about calories like a million times over, but when I talk to people, guys, when you say how much food you eat, just say the amount of food I eat. Don't say calories because it doesn't make sense. And food mass is even a better way of explaining it because food mass usually refers to the macronutrient content of food. Now, there is some quantum physics side of this, which is very, very, very hard to explain, which I'm not qualified to do yet. But there's a certain amount of energy that you lose through, obviously, the thermogenic effect, but also through quantum biosynthesis of different amino acids. That's a whole topic for another day, but basically there's more to it than just the thermic effect of food, hormones, things like that. There's a lot more to it, but for example, we can gather about 2/3 of our effective energy that we could use during the day from the sun. But obviously most people don't get enough sun to do that. So people that I know, that I coach, many of them don't actually eat that much food. Some of them don't eat much at all. You think, how is this guy like living? But he just is out in the sun all the time. He's doing lots of biohacks, red light therapy, sauna, stuff like that. So he's creating more metabolic water. His mitochondria are more effective. So the amount of energy he gets per unit of food that he takes in is much higher. So there's so much to look at when it comes to food, guys, and calories. It's I need to do a masterclass on it at some point, but it'll be quite a hell of a video to make. It'll take me probably about an hour or so to talk through.
Interesting. Okay, so we have a question from Melbourne. Anne would like to know any strength training suggestions for women over 60.
That's a good question. Yeah. So hi Anne. Nice to see you. So I'd probably say that it depends how your joints are. I mean, a lot of people, females over 60, can have osteoporosis. It's common about half of the people, apparently 40%, something like that. So I'd look at some kind of slow burn methodology. So that means you're training with, slow controlled concentrics and eccentrics. So slow pushing, slow lifting, slow controlled movement sort of thing. You can also try isometric training, which is effective as well. You'll still build up strength throughout the whole movement. It's just not as skill specific. So it depends what your goals were. So it always comes down to goals. So if you say to me, I want to be a bodybuilder, it's not really going to happen if you're just doing isometric training. Reason being is just it's hard to accumulate that much muscle damage, because to get muscle damage or muscle fiber tears, you have to actually... Oh, bear with me. I'm going to swap cameras. Bear with me. You can still hear me, can't you?
Yep. You can still hear you loud and clear.
All right. I'm going to press some buttons.
Oh,
right.
There we go.
There we go.
Nice.
Camera number 2. Always have a backup. There we go. So yeah, so it depends what you're trying to do, but I mean, to break down muscle fibers, you do have to move through the resistance profile sort of thing. I would suggest looking at a video that I made about 6 or 9 months ago. It's called something like Ultimate Carnivore Bodyweight Workout, something like that. That's something you could do at home 1 to 4 times per week. Every week, it'll take you about 20 minutes. It talks you through a whole body workout that will work your body head to toe. I'll probably look at doing that maybe over a span of about 20 minutes. It takes about 20 minutes to complete it. And I give 2 examples of each exercise. So say, for example, you're doing push-ups, you're not strong enough. A lot of people aren't. There's an alternative for that. So you go on your knees, for example, but I'll check out that video as well. And that's broadly speaking without going into like telling someone what to do, what I would suggest looking at.
Nice. Thanks, Anne. Thanks, Jonathan. Okay. Susie Underwood would like to know, for mature retirement age people, any recommendations for preventing or repairing sarcopenia through weightlifting?
Hi, Susie. I think the answer is in the question itself. It's weightlifting. As nonchalant as it sounds, the answer is weightlifting. And if you can't do that, it's doing something which might be like, I don't know, park your car further from the shops, walking a little bit. If you're someone that usually, I don't know, holds onto the stair rail as you're walking up it, maybe let go for a minute. Maybe do a few steps holding on. Maybe do a few steps without holding on. Maybe sometimes you walk up 2 steps at once. Work your balance sort of thing as well. I mean, that's probably quite important. So Bulgarian split squats, put your back leg on a sofa, do a squat like that, holding something if you're not balanced. There's always ways around it. But yeah, I think largely speaking, the answer is within itself.
Thanks, Susie. Thanks, Jonathan. Okay. So Ben would like to know, what's the best way to get rid of muscle stiffness after training?
Hello. The best way...
Don't go to training.
Don't go to the gym. That's the worst thing if you're trying to get rid of muscle stiffness after training. So you could probably counteract the whole thing. I would look at red light therapy, personally, heat, having baths. Do not have cold baths or cold showers after training, ever, under any circumstance. No matter what anyone else says online, don't do it. Science doesn't support it, and the anecdotes don't support it. I would look at staying warm as well. That will increase blood flow to the peripheral areas of your body, perhaps where you might not have good blood flow if you're dealing with maybe insulin resistance or something. Maybe your body's not shuttling around the blood as effective as possible. Nutrients aren't getting around the body. You can do some stretching as well. I find that has some effect, but most people do stretching incorrectly. I'd say if someone was looking to incorporate stretching into their routine, every stretch must be held for at least 30 seconds. Otherwise, it is virtually pointless. Doing this sort of thing you see people do in the gym, waste of time. It doesn't do anything at all. It pulls your muscles a bit, which I don't know, maybe makes you a bit warmer, but it doesn't really do anything. It's not a form of recovery which I would ever use. So I'd look at stretching as well. Just doing what you can handle, and over time adapting to that stimulus. So, for example, you might reach down and touch your knees and eventually touch your toes. What you'll find is if you breathe in, so as you then breathe out as you go down, you'll be able to stretch further and further as time goes on. Just be conscious that if you first do it, don't do it for like 3 minutes straight. Do 30 seconds, see how far you can get, and do 35. Everything that you do in terms of like resistance training, recovery, food, diet should all be incremental and in accordance with the adaptation state of your body. Don't try to force these things. You won't get more results by doing 10 minutes or something. Just do one thing, see what happens, then add a bit, then add a bit, and add a bit. So it should always be incremental. So that way you can get the best bang for your buck out of the least amount of effort.
Thank you. Okay. So Paul Hill has a question. Who were the athletes you look up to? Can I go first on this one? Because mine's going to be a really quick answer. I even have to look up the guy's name as I'm answering it. So who are the athletes that I look up to? So I've been into anything physical, any sports or anything like that, right? So I just remember one guy from my childhood that I kind of look up to. And his name is Cliff Young. And he was an old guy that used to run marathons in Australia with his gumboots on, and if you're from the UK, his wellies on. So yeah, I looked up to him because I thought that's pretty cool, being able to run marathons in your wellies. But that's it from me. How about you, Jonathan?
I would say my brother. He's not an athlete per se. He's not a professional athlete. He's not semi-professional. He's very much amateur. He snapped his shin years back, and he also broke his knee. Dodgy tackles, very similar to my experience. Basically got illegally tackled by some bastard playing football. So, soccer for those American people. And he managed to get back in the game, and he played a few years, and he did the best he could. But now I think he's realised he can't quite keep up with it anymore. His body won't let him. So he's probably my biggest role model, or someone that I look up to for athletic stuff. After that would be Sean Baker, obviously. Quite a bit in common. We're both quite tall. I'm not as tall as him. Both carnivore, both into resistance training, both into outdoorsy, biohacky sort of stuff. He has a very fulfilling life. It's not so much about the athlete or what they do. It's more about how the person goes about their life that impresses me. So for someone like Sean Baker, who is obviously very busy, getting a hold of him is an absolute nightmare. So I look up to athletes like him, holding world records at the age of 55, 56 or something is mad impressive. Outside of that, I would say a late bodybuilder called Cedric McMillan. So he kind of put forward the idea that bodybuilding shouldn't be this grotesque, horrible looking thing. It should be this art, like almost like a pageant, like a physique, like a sculpture. So when you saw him, like I met him in person a few times, and he was an absolute sculpture. You didn't see bodybuilders like that until he came about maybe 10 years ago. And he died probably 2 to 3 years ago. But he's someone I looked up to, and part of the reason I started my channel was because I think his death could have been prevented. I think a lot of what the bodybuilders do nowadays is obviously contraindicated, and They don't apply the right biohacks. They seem to think that supplements will patch up a bad diet and bad lifestyle. They all stare at screens all day. They're not invested in their health that much. They get a blood test very rarely and they say they're healthy. But they don't do enough for themselves considering the level of risk that they put on their body. So for me, that's something that could have been prevented. But he is someone I looked up to mainly because he had a very fulfilling life in that he also put all the money that he earned from bodybuilding into a charity for children.
Nice.
And these children were, these children were severely deprived, I believe, in his home state in the US. And it was like a recreation creche kind of center. So children that didn't have much money could go there, get a meal, go do activities, socialize, learn skills, outdoorsy stuff. And he put all his money towards that. I don't see bodybuilders out there or anyone really with that much money behind them that's, earning good money that does that sort of thing. I think generally people are quite selfish and they don't pass it forward, which is something I don't like about a lot of people nowadays.
Yeah, nice. Okay. Gazamongo. Jonathan, do you think you can push food energy intake higher on carnivore than a mixed diet from a point of view of fat gain while bulking, as you have experience of both?
That's a good question. You spelt my name very wrong, but
Jonathan.
yeah, I don't know who that is. I changed mine. Well, I changed my name when I realized people can't spell my name, so I put it to the most generic way, universal way of spelling my name, and people still do the opposite anyway. So I'm fucking hell. I think Dave's gone for a second, but Jonathan, do you think you can push food energy intake while on carnivore than higher than a mixed diet from a point of view of fat gain or bulking as you experience in both? What I will say is when I was doing a mixed macronutrient diet years ago, I was eating about 6,500 labeled food calories every day for months and months and months on end. My body fat was higher. I'll say now it's harder to gain weight, but the weight you do gain is better. It's leaner. Your body has this, I'm sure you found, Dave, your body has this like hard limit where you just can't eat much more food. So I think bodybuilding on a carnivore diet is better. Fat loss on a carnivore diet is significantly better, much, much, much better, easier. Less to go wrong because, like I said earlier about the carbohydrate insulin model, that doesn't come into it because largely speaking, we don't eat many carbohydrates. Now, what I would say is if someone is looking to do powerlifting, if I was to do powerlifting, I would probably add in white rice, maybe some fruit of some kind. Reason being is you need body weight to lift heavy weights. Body weight helps that momentum, helps that kinetic energy. So I don't think we will ever see a significantly strong powerlifter or strongman doing a carnivore diet ever. Just because the amount of weight we need to have on our body, which is obviously unnatural, be very hard to pack on or keep on with a carnivore diet.
Interesting. Okay. And a follow-up from Gazamongo. Well, it's not a follow-up, it's a different kind of question. The quantum is fascinating. Sarah Pugh back on again sometime. She's great.
Yeah, we're looking to do it probably a few months down the line. I've got a big podcast I'm going to do with Anthony Chafee in July. We've set the date. Well, we've not set a date, official date, but we're setting that time deliberately to match up with our schedules. With Sarah, we'll probably look at the next month or two, but I'll see when she's free. She gets quite busy, so.
Cool. Okay. And Adnu, and they said Andrew. Adnu W. Fat adaptation. What are common attributes of someone who follows carnivore diet but not fat adapted? Have you seen it amongst your clients?
I've had 3 clients that struggle to get fat adapted, in that they get very hungry, they seem to get very dehydrated, they seem to get headaches. The problem was they did too much exercise, and that's the hard truth. They were trying to do 10 to 15 hours of exercise every week. And I say to them, it's not natural to do that amount of exercise. You're burning the candle at both ends. And it's the same with so many people. Like I've made loads of these videos like, oh, why am I not improving on a carnivore diet? Why I'm not gaining muscle? The hard truth is you're doing too much exercise that isn't specific to your goals. You're not sleeping at night because you're highly strung, you're anxious, you're staring at screens all day. Another thing is that they just don't eat enough food. So it's usually a combination of those three things. Now, with the question at hand, what common attributes of someone that follows a diet they're not fat adapted? So it's the headaches, the feeling hungry in the middle of the night, the waking up to pee, the lack of energy towards the tail end of their workouts, kind of like the brain fog, low mood. So yeah, it's usually those things. And oftentimes these people have medication in their diet, in their lifestyle still. They're taking lots of different supplements, so it's hard to work out what's going on. But the most neurotic people are the people that always struggle with fat adaptation. And I see this over and over and over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. It's 9 times out of 10, it's because of that.
Interesting. Wow. Okay, so you have a question here for me. What about you, Dave, from Winterlion? What about you, Dave? Are you planning to put on muscle mass? Do you like muscle at all? Yeah, I want to put on muscle mass, but I'm just so lazy. Well, it's not that I'm lazy. It's that I've got so much other things that I'm doing. If I go to the gym specifically, or I take half an hour and I go and do some kind of like push-ups or whatever, I feel like, oh, it's good, but I could be doing the other things I've got on my plate, so I just don't do it. So yeah, I'd like to put on muscle mass. And then I've always got this little kind of, even before I was carnivore, I've always had this little thought at the back of my mind, because I know what I'm like. And, you know, my exercise always gets deprioritized. And so I think even if I did put on the muscle, what happens when I lose interest and then that muscle that wastes away and becomes flabby skin or fat or whatever, you know? So I've always got that kind of thing in the back of my mind. So yeah, I'd like to, but yeah, I'm kind of happy where I am at the moment. Yeah.
That's fair. You can only do what you want to do. If you don't want to do something, don't do it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's kind of the way I'm like, just to have the weight off that I had is kind of, that's so satisfying for me anyway. I'm just, and it's made me look more defined anyway. So I'm kind of happy where I am at the moment. So yeah.
Yes, sit back and smell the roses. I mean, look how far you've come. You're a very lean gentleman for a man that used to be over fat. You know, yeah, enjoy your body. You know, think of all the things you can do now which you couldn't before.
Right. Considering I used to have man boobs and couldn't walk up the stairs, you know, I've come a long way.
I'll take it.
Pretty satisfied. Yeah.
Absolutely. We've got a comment here from Nancy Graham about Dr. Baker. I want to address this one because I don't think people understand this. Sean Baker is heavily muscled, but he's not a bodybuilder. Per inch of height, I have a lot more muscle in my body than he does. And also, he's not a powerlifter. He's not a strongman. He's not a bodybuilder. He's a performance athlete. So he's as strong as he can be relative to his body weight, size, height, and he's as fast as he can be relative. So he's more like a hybrid athlete. So I think the truth is, if you want to be a strongman or a powerlifter, as I said in the first instance, you will have to consume rice and other carbohydrates. I've tried it. I'm autistic. If there was a way to do it, I would have done it. If I met someone out there that happened to do it, that was a client of mine, yeah, I'd say, but this has never been the case. I've never met a significantly high-level strongman or powerlifter that follows a strict carnivore diet. So in that instance, yeah, carbs are a requirement. You know, it's easier to eat more food if you have more foods to eat. The hyperpalatable, you know, white rice with honey, think Stan Efferding, bodybuilder, and also powerlifter, strongman type bloke. He couldn't do that without those extra foods in there. People say, oh, yeah, but it's not essential. No, it's not essential, but it is a requirement because you will not be able to eat that much food. Like you've already said before, and I've said loads of times before, like the carnivore diet is a body composition optimization diet. It's not for people that are trying to be as big and heavy as possible. So it's a different angle.
Mm, interesting. Okay. Aid, thank you very much. Thank you very
Absolutely.
much. Good to see you. Okay, and what do we got? Ben says, Dave, I like to lift the weight from the steak. Yeah, I'm good enough just lifting up the bowl of my bowl of mince and scrambled eggs every day is
And the
enough for me.
forks.
Yeah.
That one.
Like
And
that.
sometimes that one as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got an update for everyone. We are over 100 people in the live stream at the moment, which is really nice to see. Thank you very much, everyone. That's awesome. Okay. So we've been going for about 50 minutes. Anyone have any other questions you want to or discussion points you want us to talk about? Put a Q or a QQQ in front of it and let us know. So, Jonathan, what do you got on for the weekend?
For me, I'm going to have a rest day tomorrow. I'm going to relax.
Hmm.
And today I've got a few things to attend to, some errands. I'm going to be making my delicious carnivore protein ice cream shortly, which
Oh,
consists of raw milk and whey protein. By macronutrient value, it's 99% carnivore, so that does me just fine. I use that as an addition to my diet, and I really enjoy it. Makes my life better. I think not having it will make my life bad. So I like to tease
no.
people because they get very upset about whey protein. People, because a lot of my subscribers come from Bart K, and obviously Bart K is very militant with his message, very straightforward. He's very transparent and obvious and clear with his message, which I think is great. You know, he's a good friend of mine. But
Hmm.
because a lot of my followers are from him, if I say, "Oh, this is a carnivore keto-ish sort of thing," they do not like it. I get so many thumbs downs. I'm like, oh, come on. I'm not telling you to eat it, but there's some carb addict out there that needs this. They need it much more than
Oh.
a bloody Snickers bar. So, yeah.
Nice. We've got a question here from Gazamongo. Big J, did you say a recipe ebook is coming?
Yeah, that'll be coming shortly, maybe in the next 1 to 2 months. I could sit down and do it over about 2 afternoons, but I've got so much stuff to do, it's nuts. So I want to sit down and do it properly, but that'll be coming soon. It'll be affordable for like £2 or £3, something like that.
Nice. And Susie says, I love Jonathan's carnivore cake recipe. Oh,
If it keeps people on a sensible diet somewhat, then brilliant.
what's that?
I'd love
Like
to.
steak breadcrumbs made into a sponge or something?
It's a lot of dairy, so I think for a lot of people watching this, maybe not, but yeah, it's pretty sick. It's good, honestly.
Nice. Okay. Kerry, advice for putting on weight for 34-year-old woman, 5'4" and 105 pounds. I run after 3 small kids all day, homeschool, stay-at-home mom, and have trouble fitting in heavy weights.
Well, you just split the workout up. First thing in the morning before they wake up. You know, if your goal means that much to you, get up about 10 minutes earlier, for example. You do the first half of my home body weight workout. Then later in the day, when they've gone to bed, say 7 or 8 o'clock, you do the other half. In terms of like gaining weight, for just it does come down to eating more food. I'd probably prefer someone, if they've tried all this already, to rule out health conditions. Check your liver health. If your liver does not function well, you will not emulsify fat well, and your appetite will be crap. So I'd look at that as well. But broadly speaking, you'll need more food, a little bit of activity at the right intensity and duration. That's pretty much it. I mean, it's very hard to say without, you know.
Thank you, Kerry. And Adnu W. Insulin bump. Could you explain when it happens and why it is good if it is?
What's your take on this, Dave?
Insulin bump. So it's when you eat something, you'll get an insulin bump. Like even if you don't eat sugar, right, you're going to get some level of insulin bump. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have some protein, you're going to get some kind of bump in insulin. And from what I've heard from Bart K, I think it's important to get that each day. Otherwise, if you're not getting any insulin spikes at all, I think like you're in trouble. But I'm not in any way qualified to talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, a bump is very different to a spike. So all it's really saying is how much of a bump does an individual's body need to help increase the insulin level in the body to then transport glucose and turn on certain enzymes and features of the kidney so that electrolytes are stored effectively. That's what people usually mean when they're saying about this sort of thing, why it's necessary. Like you said, for most people, largely speaking, it is getting about once a day. Now, you can get it for eating more dairy, believe it or not. The more insulinogenic amino acids and the more glucogenic amino acids are in dairy. So, for example, I believe it's something like, I'd have to check, but I think leucine is very insulinogenic, and that's the highest concentration in dairy. So it's the most, it does the job the best way. So if someone is perhaps dealing with a diet where they have to have low protein for some reason, if they're doing a classical ketogenic diet, high fat, lower-ish or lowish protein, they might add in a little bit of leucine powder to it, so they'll still get that insulin bump. I like to think that you don't have to do it often. Now, Bart K says something between about once every 1 or 2 days, and that seems to be accurate for me. I seem to have some issue with getting a significant bump if I don't eat enough food. So my protein is particularly high. So in times where one time I did the lion diet, I did 3 to 4 days. So obviously my leucine content in my diet was lower because I wasn't eating dairy. I had heart palpitations, electrolyte disturbance. My guts didn't feel great and I felt very anxious. As soon as I added in dairy, so I had like a glass of milk, I felt 100% like back to normal. So there's obviously something to do with the calcium in the diet and also the leucine in the diet. So it is essential, but how much someone needs is very individual depending on their epigenetic status. So for me, I'm a tall, would-be, blonde-haired gentleman, Scandinavian descent, a bit of a Neanderthal Viking-looking bro. So I probably need a bit more dairy than most people because that's where my historical ancestral origins, that's what they would have eaten quite a bit of over the last maybe 10, 12,000 years or so. Now, someone else, perhaps if they were South African or maybe East African, perhaps, they wouldn't have such a high requirement for dairy. They wouldn't need that strong insulin bump. So their genetics would have changed up to that point. And that also means that they won't tolerate dairy as well. So there's a few different facets you can look at with this kind of question. I think if there isn't a problem, don't try to fix it. Don't look for something to fix if you're feeling good and feeling much better than you did already on a mixed macronutrient Western sort of diet.
Nice. Okay. So, Robin, how are you doing? Thanks for tuning in. And Ben's got a question here. You forgot one question. How did Jonathan find Carnivore?
Oh, wow. I'm trying to think the most concise way to say this. I did a bodybuilding competition when I was about 15, 16 years old. I needed to get shredded. What I was doing before didn't work. I cut out all carbohydrates and all fats. I ate 5 cans of tuna a day and about 2 fried eggs per day for about 5 months. So effectively, it's my first experience doing a carnivore diet, and that's back in, about 60, so 12 years ago. I don't know, a long time ago. I did that for about 5 months. Okay, great. My digestion felt good. My energy was crap because I was ripped and I was not eating much fat. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. But I got mercury toxicity. We'll see, exacerbates symptoms of autism, which was not fun from the canned tuna. I revisited this, but this time I did it with a bit more fat. So I was eating not high fat by any means. It wasn't 1-to-1, but maybe, I don't know, maybe like 300 protein a day and maybe 150 fat. I noticed really quickly I got really lean and I felt much better. But I was like, this isn't sustainable. And that was 4.5 years ago, roughly. Then I sort of kept revisiting it. I was like, well, I'm doing something wrong here. So I started increasing the fat. And basically, how I came to this diet was mostly out of me being stubborn as hell because I worked in a vegan health food shop, and I saw everyone around me being ill, anorexic, depressed, anxious, suicidal. So I've at first had an experience with vegans feeling like crap. And I was like, I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to go this route. And at the time I was eating a bit of a plant-based diet. I mean, it wasn't veggie by any means. I was still eating high protein chicken, beef, stuff like that. But most of my nutrient intake was from carbohydrates and plant sources. I soon realised that caused a lot of inflammation. I had an enormous array of health issues because of it. Way too many to list. I always forget one or two of them when I talk about it in my videos. But what I would suggest doing is if you want more information about that, go to my channel after this. My first video was something like Carnivore for 1,318 days. That gives you a sort of it in a nutshell, but I talk about my experiences as a whole. But yeah, it's been mostly used, or I say the greatest benefit I've had has been for mental health and digestion. Other stuff has come along the way. Chronic fatigue was difficult, but I'd say about the third year into Carnivore, I found most of the benefit in terms of the fatigue dropping. Yeah, I've had a very mixed experience to most people. I changed my diet pretty much overnight. Within 1 week, I felt better. So yeah, check out my videos because I go into a lot more detail. I don't want to take up all the airtime here talking about that.
Nice. So we're at the top of the hour. So let's just we've got one question left. So let's attack that one last question, and then we'll call it an evening or call it a morning. Susie, I've heard that leg exercises, weighted squats and sprints will grow muscle all over the body and not just the legs. Is that true?
The idea is that we secrete a higher amount of growth hormone in our blood from doing heavy compound leg dominant big muscle group exercises, and that is true. Growth hormone in of itself is not anabolic. I repeat, it's not anabolic. It sounds anabolic because it says, oh, growth hormone. But that's not how it works. It's an anti-catabolic hormone. Now, I think the merit to these things is that when you do, say, a sprint, you pump your arms like that. So you work your shoulders, you work your obliques, your chest comes into it a little bit as well because your arms come across your body. Your upper back has to stay stable to keep your body from slumping over as you're sprinting. Then obviously the weighted squats, if you think that then they did a study with, I think it's squats, and they measured the thighs and the biceps. The biceps actually grew quite a lot from doing squats. Now, when you're holding a bar back here, that muscle has to flex and tense hard to keep your body rigid. So also your pecs come into it, because obviously if you're trying to keep your the bar from rolling back, falling on the ground, you're going to be pressing forwards with your chest muscles up here. So all those muscles across the front of your body will obviously activate. Then your upper back and lower back will activate as well. So it is a full body exercise in essence. And if I say, okay, Jonathan, you have one exercise to do, say I was healthy, my spine was good, it would be a squat. That's my experience. I wouldn't say a deadlift just because the chest doesn't come into it as much as a squat. So it is strictly speaking true, but I don't think it gives a massive additional benefit if you're doing, say, a chest press, a pull up, a row, for example. I think it's good as a standalone, but it's not going to give you much more if you add it with other stuff anyway.
Awesome, interesting. So I think we can probably call time. So
Yeah.
from me, I'd just like to say thanks to everyone for tuning in. Thanks very much for your questions. And thank you, Jonathan, for providing so much useful information.
Hopefully. Yeah.
No,
I appreciate everyone coming on, and I appreciate Dave for having me on his channel as well. This is linked to both my channel and Dave's, I think. If you wanted to follow me, obviously go to Carnivore Muscle. You look out for that logo, like that. You can also buy this t-shirt, guys. It's incredible. Yeah, also, if you're watching me and by off chance for some bizarre unknown reason you're not following Dave, follow him at Zero Carb, or is it at No Carb Life?
Thank you. At Zero Carb, yeah.
At Zero Carb. Yeah. It's check him out there as well. Dave's one of the few people, guys, that I actually watch on YouTube. One of about 5 people. I don't watch much stuff nowadays because it's just time and energy and but I watch his clickbait titles. I think this is gonna be good. And it's like a 2-minute video, and it's like I've learned something here, or it's got my cogs thinking. Like, yes, it was a bit clickbaity, but I gained something from it, and maybe think about something I wouldn't usually think about. So I appreciate your work, Dave, and obviously all your channel's members and subscribers that have come on to watch this now and ask such excellent questions.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank you so much, Jonathan. And yeah, everybody, I know it's Friday morning for a lot of people, but it's the end of the day here. So I'm going to wish everyone a great weekend. And thank you so much for joining us.
Cheers, guys. Take care.
Cheers, guys.